Uh, Hello again. Now I am going to present Elena Perez and Slavek Biel from Facebook. They are going to give us a talk whose name is Life of a Change. They are both engineers at London, at Facebook's London office. With you, Elena and Slavek.
Can you hear me? Yeah, perfect. Well, we've been for a long time here, so guys, if you want to stretch. We'll try to be as fast as possible because we all want to have lunch after this. So, yeah, my name is Elena. His name is Slavek. Thank you, John, for having us here. I will repeat it a lot of times, but good luck with the competition. It's super exciting. I was never in the competition, but I had a lot of friends who did that, and it's super exciting. I really liked it. So I'm Elena. I will introduce myself a little bit later. I'm going to talk about Life of a Change. What is this? Life of a Change. I've been working for Facebook for a short time now, and from the beginning, from the outset, I always was like, how do the people in these companies work? Yeah, Facebook, you see it, it's really cool. You see Google, it's really cool. But how are things done really in these companies? So we're gonna talk about this, how things are really done inside the company, and I'm gonna give an example to explain this. So first, I want to introduce Slavek. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello everyone. I'm Slavek. I've been working for Facebook for about 4 years now. I'm Polish, studied in Krakow at Jagiellonian University. I've never done ICM ICPC, but I'm doing top coder a lot, so I kind of understand what you are guys going through. And yeah, I'll be joining Elena and talking about how do we build stuff and how do we make things happen at Facebook.
Thank you, Slavek. I'm Elena. I'm Spanish. I studied in the Universidad Autónoma. Who is from there? Yay! So good luck to everybody, but good luck, you guys. Yeah, so I live now in London. I work in Facebook London. I've been working here for 9 months now. It's been a long time and a short time. It's really exciting. So yeah, I work in the internal tools team. We try to, as I said to my mom when I joined, nothing that I do, you're gonna see it, Mom, sorry, I have a mom who uses Facebook, she's weird, she invited me to use Facebook a long time ago. And she was like, really, I'm not gonna see anything you do? No, you're not, but hey, the engineers and the people in the company use the things I do, so that's really cool. So let me start with the talk itself. I want to, you guys keep this number in mind, 30,000, yeah, it's just a number. I will go back to it later. I'm sure you've seen these posters all over the internet, all over the photos of the Facebook campuses. Well, we have these everywhere, move fast and break things. So, before I joined Facebook, I had my own startup, and I remember seeing these posters and saying what, move fast and break things? These guys are crazy. Okay, you want to move fast, you want to do things fast? Yeah, sure, it's normal. Seriously, breaking things? What crazy person would encourage you to break stuff? Yeah, but when I joined, it was okay, now I get it. It's not breaking the code, it's breaking norms. It's if you don't dare to take risks, you're not going to go up a step forward. If you keep doing things like they've always been done, things are not going to change. And move fast and break things is this. Yeah, move fast, that's normal. But do things that have never been done, take risks, be brave. So let me go back to that number. What is that number? It's the number of commits we have a month in our repositories. So that means 1,000 commits a day. I want to say that commit is not just one line of, well, it can be one line of code, but it's change itself. So it's someone says, I don't know, add, I don't know right now. I I don't know, it's change. It's not just one line. It depends on the workflow. For me, like before joining Facebook, commit was just single line of change, and like I kept saving commits. This is like big change. I will explain it now when I continue with the talk. So how can we keep the pace of 30,000 commits? Well, that was like a couple of months ago. It might have been a little bit up now. I'm so afraid to look at this. How can we keep this pace? Well, it's all about the culture. Oh, nice phrase. We have to build trust inside the company. Like, if you're stopping people from doing things, if you're afraid of people breaking stuff, and you're like controlling every single person, you're not gonna get this speed. You're not gonna get all the changes. Like, we're not gonna do new things. So we have to build trust in every single engineer, every single person in the company, and this is how we work. So my change. This is a change I really, really like. But first, let me introduce you to Kent Beck. Who knows who Kent Beck is? No? No? What? Well, this guy is a really famous guy. He's the inventor of extreme programming and trust-driven development, and he works with Facebook. He's been here for, here in Facebook for 2 years now, and like I promise, I look for the change first, and then I look for the person who did it, and it was like, whoa, this guy, that's cool. So the change, so every single person that joins the company, Facebook, has to go through bootcamp, which is a 6-week program. Well, you go to the headquarters. It doesn't matter if you're working in London, if you're working in New York. Like, you go to California, everything is stunning, amazing. You go there, and the first day is like, wait, this is a freaking big thing. I'm working for Facebook. What am I supposed to do? They're like, it's okay. You'll get used to this. So you go there, you have your orientation, and then you are assigned some tasks, like real tasks, things to do, some bugs to fix, some features to add. You're like, okay, so this is real shit. You start doing this, and in his case, he got a task which was, like when you select your status, you can select like married, or single, or whatever. So like a couple of years ago, we didn't have the option to add domestic partnership, like gay marriage options. And he was asked to add this thing to Facebook. He was like, okay, I will do it. So the first thing he had was a task. This is our task tool. Basically, every single person in the company uses this tool. I'm the person working in this right now, so I'm pretty proud of it. So it doesn't matter if you're an engineer. If you're an engineer, you will have bugs assigned to you, like features assigned to you. You can create tasks, of course. A task can be a problem, can be features assigned new things. Or also, for example, I talk with the facilities guys because I'm trying to improve the tool. And the facilities guys in the office use it to deliver packages. So they create a task for every single package. And I'm like, wait, what? You're using this tool to deliver packages? Or to create the menus in the kitchen? It's like, okay, I would never thought that this would be used for this, but like it's super flexible. It's a web application. We have a lot of APIs in PHP, JavaScript. Like everyone can use it as you can create a script to create tasks. Some people go crazy and create thousands of them. But you can tag things. You can assign it to people. Internally, we work a lot with tags. Basically, you can tag almost everything inside, like wiki articles. You can tag tags, and then you can look for like all the things related with the tags. Just pretty cool. You can comment. You can like comments. So like pretty Facebooky everything. So in this case, Kent was assigned the task, and he was like, okay, yeah, I have the task. I accept it. Let's do the real thing. But first, he was new in the company, so he needed to send his computer. You arrive to the company, to the headquarters, and you're given a laptop. That's it. You have to set up everything. First thing you need, the code. So what do we use for the code? We can use Git or Mercurial. It's everything a wrapper around this VM. And in this case, it really, really surprised me. Like, okay, I will just get like in the case of the status, was like, okay, I'll get that part of the code, that will be a repo, and like, that's it. No, in this case, all www, which is the web, is just a single repo. And I was like, what kind of company has just one repo, like giant repo? Well, there's a main reason to do this. We're encouraged to, well, at first, it doesn't limit you to do anything, because you need to check a piece of code in one place, and you can check it basically wherever you need. Like, some things might be done in one place of the code that you would never imagine, and you can use that. Or you can also, like, you see a bug, and normally you assign the task to the person who's responsible for that, but you can also take charge of it and say, like, hey, I would like to fix this. In that case, it goes through, like, code review that I will explain now, but you can actually change the code, and you can learn a lot of things. It makes no sense that you separate a lot of things and like the different parts of the structure, and then you have to like escalate and goes to another repo, and then it has to come back. Like, if you update a big thing of the code, it should be updating like everything. It shouldn't have to wait. How can I explain it? It shouldn't have to wait until it's updated in like the global repo to be updating everything. Like, things go faster if we have everything. As I said, trust. This can be a little bit risky, but we have a really, really smooth process, and things are like work really good. And like, I would do this. I would never go back to separating everything in different repos. Well, of course, we have a repo for Android, we have a repo for iOS, we have a repo for backend, but like that which is the web, that's giant repo, it's big. So code, we have the code. Now we have to write the code. What IDE should I use? Well, you can use whatever IDE you want. In my case, I know I'm not a real software engineer because I don't use like terminal editor. I was like, you know, guys, I seriously, I'm Spanish. I use the Spanish layout. VIM is a pain to use with the Spanish keyboard, at least for me, and my fingers get tangled all the time. I was like, can I use Sublime? They were like, of course you can use whatever you want. Thank God. That's not a problem at all. You can choose whatever you like. Just use it. And also, it's really cool because we have a lot of like groups internally, like Sublime users, and we have custom plugins with all our tools. We have a tool that I don't have my I guess I'm a little. What can I do? I don't have my phone. Oh, whatever. It's it's your fault.
I don't think it is.
What I was saying. Oh yeah. VI is the best. Yeah, VI is the best. Sure. So, for example, Sublime, which I like. I really like. We have an internal group of Sublime users who create plugins for the editor, and like they integrate with our internal search tool, integrates with the push tool, with like a lot of things. So, like, things move quick internally, and it's really good. You can use whatever you like. And I feel like kind of a real engineer, even though I'm using Sublime. So, next thing. We have our environment. Let's code. And what would this guy do? As I told you, this guy is the inventor. Of test-driven development. So, let's start with tests. He wrote a lot of tests. I was going through the code, and he wrote a lot of tests before he coded. And the next thing he decided to do, as a normal person, he decided to start the code. Here's actually the real code. The green lines are the additions, and the red lines are the deletions. It's not a lot of code, but at the same time, it's an amazing change. So what he did, in his server, he ran all the tests that he wrote. Everything was passing. Everything was working as expected. What's the next thing? Push the code. Well, yeah, we trust engineers, but two eyes, or two set of eyes are better than one, so please, code reviews. We use code reviews in every single change that we commit. And for that, we use a tool called Fabricator. Fabricator is now open source, so you can basically go to the website. The website is just hilarious. You can download it, you can install it in your servers, and you can run it. And like you would be working in that, like in this aspect, you would have the same thing we have. We basically use, I don't know how often we update it, but basically we use the latest versions of Fabricator, and we use the real Fabricator. So what is Fabricator? It's a set of tools, open source. Good thing, it's in PHP, bad thing, it's in PHP. You can modify it, and you can like go to GitHub and edit it, and it's not just a code review tool. It also has, well, code review is called differential. That's our day-to-day lives, we use it all the time. But it also has more tools, like diffusion, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's repository, like browser. In our case, we have a lot of code and it works pretty well, so I guess it will work pretty well also with little, well, smaller repositories. And also Herald. As I told you, like, anyone can modify anyone's code, and in my case, I have the task tool, and people keep adding things. And I'm like, hey guys, I want to have a little bit of control over this. Like, yeah, you can add things, no problem, but I want to know what's happening in my tool, and I cannot like look at every single file every single day, like, hey, who added things? So Herald helps you to have alarms, and it tells you when someone has modified some pieces of repositories, some pieces of code. It lets you add like a lot of rules to keep control of that. And how do we use Fabricator? Well, you would say it's a web interface. You have to upload things there. Well, we're engineers. I said I don't like the terminal a lot, but come on, I use the terminal a lot for this. And there's another tool. It's called Arcanist. It's inside Fabricator, and it's a command line interface. So to submit a diff for code review is as simple as just put arc diff. You're in your repository, you have one comment, and you put arc diff, and you submit the code review. It asks you for the name of the change, the description of the change, who should be the reviewer, what else? Oh, the test plan, because sometimes it's not just testing, like sometimes you have to literally check the website to see what's working. And also, in our case, we have an integration with the task tool, like you said. So when you submit, like you have a task, instead of submitting the code review, taking the code review link and going back to task, you just have to add it here, and then you don't have to go out of the task. In the task, you see everything, like everything that's related to the task, you see it there. And the next step is just submitting it, and this is what it gives. And this is my day-to-day life, basically. It runs the unit tests in your machine. It only runs the ones that are related to your change. And also runs lint to check like static checker to like style of the code and stuff. That depends on the language you're using. In this case, the one that complains the most for me is the JavaScript one. And it gives you a couple of links. The revision, which is the first link, and also the Sandcastle URI, which I will explain what it is now. Oh, that's my favorite part. And this is basically what Fabricator looks like. This is a code review tool. It tells you the changes up there, then you can comment. There's a funny thing. It has like macros embedded. So in the comments, like if you cannot say something with words, say it with a meme. And we use memes all the time. And here, well, they were kind of serious people, but we use memes all the time to tell things that you cannot tell. Like come on, like, with memes. You can also see the files that are modified and like green lines and stuff. So yeah, I was like, I have this. This is how it. Oh my God, it's blurry. So this is how a code. Sorry. How a div looks like. Green lines, additions, red lines, deletions, how intuitive. And also up here we have a square, and it shows you this. It's like, so it was intended to be everything blurry except the yellow thing, but everything is blurry here. So what does it is sandcastle. What is a sandcastle? Well, when we submit some code and we tell someone to review it, like the normal thing you say is that person comes, downloads the code, builds the code, and access, like, to test some things. They go into the server and like use it. Well, that's a little bit of waste of a time, because it takes a long time to build things and run it and stuff. So why don't we do that now? So what we have is sandcastle. Basically, every time we submit a code review, that div gets pushed to a sandcastle master, and like several servers, and basically it takes the code, it builds it, and you have like your own version of your server in another server. So when the reviewer comes, he just has to check that sandcastle. You click on the link, and you have your version of Facebook with that change. You don't have to build anything. You don't have to wait for anything. It's there. It saves a lot of time. It's amazing, and it's great. So yeah, for web, this is amazing. This is great. But what happens with mobile? Before I joined Facebook, I had my own startup, and I remember, like, every time I had to test. Well, we did mobile applications, and every time I had to test something in my mobile, it was a pain. Like, had to take all the changes from other people, build them, install them in my system, in my mobile. Well, he said, you don't have the good signature, so you have to delete the previous applications, install yours, and then run it. And it's like, seriously, and you don't have to do that just once. Like, normally it takes like several tries. So what did we do here? Well, we have sandcastle. Why don't we do it in mobile? So in this case, when code is submitted to the Android repository, we build it. We have an emulator in remote machines, and we connect through VNC. In this case, I was using the Facebook application in my browser. Like, no, it doesn't look at my browser, but this was my Chrome, and you can use it and you can test it, and it's great. It saves so much time. It's so useful. So what happens? Like, this is okay. It's testing the code. Like, everything works. What happens is something goes wrong. Like, things go wrong. We have tests, but we're not bulletproof. So what we do is, as I told you, every time we upload, we submit a div, it builds a sandcastle, and it does sandcastle. We run every single test. Like, locally, we only run the ones that are like linked to the file we modified. But when we upload it, we run every single test. And what happens if tests fail? Well, we have this little friend called the trunk agent. Yeah, trunk agent. Build bot. It comes to your div and it tells you, hey, you broke tests. But tests break all the time, right? Like, you can have transient problems, you can have flaky tests. So we have logic behind there that works really good now. It doesn't tell you every single error. It tells you, like, things you broke and that you have to fix before you submit. And this prevents you from submitting the code, like, if things are broken. So yeah, tests. But what happens if you don't, like, write tests? Well, we should all write tests, but if not, we also have embedded, like, it's in Fabricator, it's not only a Facebook thing, code coverage. So basically, you go to your div and it tells you what lines are covered by tests and which ones are not. So in this case, you see the new code. This is red lines that is not covered by tests, and the blue ones are. And the light blue ones are just, like, not important for tests because they're like spaces and stuff. So in this case, code coverage. Oh yeah, things that are not covered by tests. In this case, we don't have a number to like, you have to have 100% coverage or at least 50%. It tells you here how, like, the percentage of your code that is covered by tests. In this case, like, it's up to the reviewer to decide if that's a good coverage or not. We don't have a fixed number. And the reviewer should say, like, hey, put more tests, or don't put more tests, or this code is bad, this code is good. Up to the reviewer. So, yeah. We have our code review. We have already tested that in the Sandcastle. We have already seen that it has a good test coverage, that it doesn't break any tests. So it's approved, right? A reviewer comes, say, hey, you're good to go. Let's push it. And we don't have, well, I don't go into this. So basically, you just line your code into the master branch. How do you do this? Arcane, as I said before. Remember that I said that we use arcdiff before? Well, to land the code, arclan. It's intuitive. It's easy. So basically, just write arclan and everything is done for you. It takes your commit. It synchronizes the branch you're working with the master branch, and it takes that commit and applies it to the master branch. And your code is there. It's ready to get pushed. Good luck. So, can we go play now?
Yeah. So not yet. So testing your code, writing your code, committing your code is all cool, but there are some more things you need to take care of afterwards. So, we give a lot of freedom to our engineers, to do stuff they want, but we also keep them accountable for the changes they make. So when you make a change, you then have to own the change. We don't have separate QA people, or you don't have you write the code for some tool, I add something to task tool and then hope Elena to take care of it. So this is not how it works. You need to make sure that the code you committed actually works, actually doesn't break other things. One of the very important things for us is performance. I worked for a while in site efficiency team, so that's the team that tries to make sure that we don't run out of servers. And it's quite easy to introduce CPU regressions into your code. You add some functions, you change something, maybe you fetch a little more data to display your new feature, and suddenly you're using 1% more of CPU instructions than the code before. So if you use 1% more CPU instructions and the code runs on 100,000 web servers, you suddenly need 1,000 more servers, and you are costing the company a couple $1 million a year. So it's better not to do that. So we have a pretty cool tool called perflab. What it does is tries to run your new code for you before it actually hits production. It takes your code, builds a new fake Facebook instance, then takes a bunch of real production traffic, sampled, runs through your code, and then compares with actual production code and see if there are differences in performance. Is your code slower? Does your code use more memory? Does your code fetch more data from backend? So we have pretty charts for plotting all of that. And whenever you see one of those lines go up, you see something is wrong. And the best part is you can see it actually before your whole code hits production, so you can still have time to fix it. And this has saved us numerous big regressions in the system. If you commit the code, we still track a lot of things. You are responsible after your change to at least look at the charts you are interested in, and we have charts for everything, every possible thing. We have, your TTI, which is time to interact, how slow is the web page, how much of all the resources we use, what's the load on the servers. But we also have metrics about how users use your service, how many messages people send, how many posts they like, and how many comments they make. So every time one of those lines jumps in one direction or the other, like we try to understand what happened, like what change made our, comments go down by 5%, or our photo impressions go down by 10%, and then we try to investigate it and go back to it. So usually when we push the code twice a day roughly, so you should be aware which time your code goes to production, and then be there like if something breaks, and also like monitor the core metrics to make sure that the thing you committed didn't break anything. So one other thing that we do is for most of the serious changes of the site, we don't just like push it and turn it on for everyone at once. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is just bugs, like having unit tests and all is good and well, but there are things that are just untestable often, like like complex interactions between like various systems and stuff. So whenever we do a big change, we put it behind what we call a gatekeeper. It's an internal system for having multiple versions of Facebook alive at the same time. So it's basically a bunch of code switches that you can put in your code that check some project that we call gatekeeper project. Like this. So this says, I don't know if you can read it, but it says if the project civil union for this user is on, you should do something. If it's not, you should do something else. And our code base is littered with that. Like we have, thousands of gatekeeper projects at any time in different stage of the life cycle. So one thing is when you do something, you need to remember to put your code behind gatekeeper, because it gives you like a couple of benefits. One, if something goes wrong, you can just turn it off quickly without any code changes, any additional pushes. Just go to the web interface. You have this project. If you like set it to 0%, no one will see it. So the code is like reverted instantly almost. Like it takes maybe a couple of minutes to revert it. And the other reason is it allows you to experiment. Like one thing that we learned pretty early is that very hard to reason about how features would work and how like users will find them or use them. Like we can have our own best idea that this feature is good, but we have billions of people, like different cultures all over the world. Some of them like use Facebook in a very like different ways than we do. That is sometimes surprising. So rather than trying to like guess what's the best way to do Facebook for everyone, we do plenty of experimentation. Like you make a new feature, like let's say you want to turn your top bar from blue to pink, and then you want to see if that makes Facebook better. So you make your change, you put it behind the gatekeeper, you put it to, let's say 1% of the users, or what we often do, like all users in New Zealand, and then you look at your metrics, right? You can very easily compare, like for most of the metrics you can compare them by gatekeeper. So you have your one version of code, and then you have another version of code running at the same time, and you see like how often people comment, how many photos they see, like how much time they spend on the site. And then based on like all those metrics cumulatively, you try to judge if feature is good or not. Like if it's good, then you can go back to the gatekeeper page, put it to 100%, and then like your feature is alive. You can later remove the checks from the code. But if it's not, like you can turn it off. You can have like few different versions, that different experiments at the same time, and then compare them against one another. You can compare performance across gatekeepers. So the home page loads 5% faster if this gatekeeper is off versus when it's on. So you get all those cool data from this tool, and our decisions are like super data driven. Like nowadays, like we do very few changes that like gut feeling. Most of it is you do something, you put it behind the gatekeeper, you collect your data, then you analyze the data, and then no, this is a good feature or this is a terrible feature. Yeah, so this is like example of the project. it's pretty sophisticated. Like you can gate it on various dimensions, so it's not only like random subset of users, but we can do it on language, we can do it on age, we can do it on location. So often like some features don't make sense to turn on only for a user if their friends don't have the same feature. So that's like tricky to do. And we use like whole countries as a test grounds. Like the best countries are like pretty small and pretty isolated from other countries. So we use like Iceland or New Zealand for running tests on them. But yeah, like each one of you is like you have dozens of different projects. You often see like you have this like small thing and your friend doesn't. That's because like there are different gatekeepers running all the time. So yeah, this is an example that has like some feature enabled for Ireland, US, United Kingdom, Canada, and France. Yeah, so finally, after it's pushed, after you turn your gatekeeper up, it gets picked up by the newspapers. And then the whole process, like for this case, was it 2 weeks maybe? Yeah. So we really like value moving quickly, even though the like whole system is very complicated. Elena mentioned we get thousands of commits every day. We have maybe 1,500 engineers, and we push code twice a day. So twice a day you get thousands or a few hundred new changes going to production. Of course, we don't like bring the site down to do it. Like people cannot notice that we are turning it off twice a day. So yeah, and it affects a lot of people. So the way to achieve it, like to move fast, and for the whole thing like work quite smoothly, like we use a lot of automation. Like this is like pretty well-oiled machine by now. I think the most important things are like one, the automated testing that we can catch a lot of problems early, and then all the monitoring systems we have in place, like almost everything is monitored in some way, and there are like people who look at the charts, and there are automatic alerts on many of those charts. So when something breaks, like we can figure out very quickly, and then we can like fix it and push it quickly. So yeah, if you change something, you can get it into like faces of all people in maybe 2 hours. That's for like extreme case when something is clearly broken, you need to fix it right away. So it takes, you code your change, you review it, you commit it, then we like pick it to a branch, then we need to build the binary, push it to all the web servers. So all in all, it takes around 2 hours to do a hotfix. We try to not do that, obviously, because like it's better to go through normal, safer route. But sometimes we do. So your average time, 1.5 weeks. That's because it's just safer to let the code bake a little longer in our repository before pushing it out. We make all our employees use the staging environment. So when you commit something, say today, and then you can see that for a week all your colleagues are using the new code, and we have a few thousand people in Facebook now, and they're like pretty intense Facebook users. So we can catch a lot of bugs ourselves before pushing to production. That's why it's useful to like leave it for a week rather than like pushing the same day you make the change. So that depends on the importance of the change. It's like not super urgent. Just like commit today, wait till the next Tuesday, because Tuesdays are like the biggest push day, and then it automatically will go on this Tuesday push. Yeah. So this is like the whole life cycle of this particular change from Kent. There's a task, then the code, the gatekeepers, reviews, and finally CNN. So yeah, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks for the whole thing to get done. Oh, 1.5. Okay, good. That's faster now. I don't know what the number is. thing I want to talk about briefly is hackathons. It's a very cool tradition we have at Facebook. It's this event that happens roughly once every 2 months or so. It's well, all the people at the company are encouraged to come to hackathon and try to do something different from the usual work. So it's mostly encouragement for brainstorming, prototyping, like new ideas. You know, the crazier it is, the better. And yeah, like we really believe in. Like we have this another poster that says "Code wins arguments." So when someone has an idea, like rather than discuss it and like arguing about it, we just write code for it, we prototype it, and then we can show it to other people. And like seeing the real prototype is so much more powerful than just like seeing description. That's why we have the hackathons. When you have some crazy idea, just try to build the first version. Like it will be very rough around the edges and sketchy and like barely functioning, but at least it works enough so you can show it to your peers, and then if they think it's a good idea, then you can spend more time on polishing and making it actually production ready. So a lot of Facebook products came from hackathons. So we have some of them, video, chat, tagging, the like button, some of the newer ones, timeline, events, photo viewer. Shared album was actually like just a few months ago by a guy who was visiting London office. So yeah, those are hackathons. Like it's lots of fun. Like it's very informal. Just hang around, drink beer, eat pizza, try to come out with some cool products, and then build it. Then after each hackathon, we have like a few days later, we have a hackathon forum, which is the opportunity for everyone to present their hack. And if there are cool people like it, then you can spend more time and turn it into actual product, actual feature that ends up on Facebook. So that's mostly what I had to say about the about how we build and do stuff. Last slide is a bit about how to get into Facebook as an engineer. The process is pretty simple, and as is everything, is quite fast. So you need to submit your CV, depending whether you are already graduating, then you should take the first link. If you're interested in internship, you should go to the other, or you can send email to Rush with our recruiter sitting right here. So after we have your CV, someone will read it. They will get in touch with you shortly, and then you get interviews. So for interns, we use like phone or Skype. So you just have like 2 talks remotely, and if you do well, we give you the offer. The interviews are mostly coding, so for you guys it shouldn't be too much problem. Like we do, I don't know. There's not too much algorithms. There are some algorithms. It's more like being able to write correct code and correct and efficient code. And you get to choose your language, so we don't tell you what to use. So this is the interview. If you are interested in full-time position, there is a bit more complex process. You still get the phone interview, but if you pass it, you are invited to one of our offices and have on-site interviews. There you usually have like 3 or 4 talks with engineers, and there is some combination of coding, some more general discussion, maybe some design. But yeah, that's how it works. And then you should get your answer like a month from applying. So we try to make it as expedient as possible, so you don't wait around too much. We have 4 offices currently recruiting engineers. 3 of them are in the States. That's Menlo Park, California, our biggest office, and then Seattle in New York. And we also have the London office, which we just started a bit over a year ago. We now have 70 engineers there, but it's growing fast, and we have some cool projects there. So yeah, and we are recruiting. So
Graph search is done in London.
yeah, graph search is in London. One more plug I wanted to make, since you guys like programming. We have our own competition, the Hacker Cup. The qualification round starts next week, and the registration is open, so if you want to try it out, it's cool. Like, I set some of the problems, so I know they're cool. Yeah, so go ahead, check it out. And that's all. Those are our email addresses if you want to like ask some more questions. But if you want to ask questions now, we are open to answering them.
And we have some t-shirts for people who ask questions.
So, questions?
Just out of curiosity, is the chat server still written in Erlang?
Yes.
Okay.
It's off. Turn it on.
So?
Yeah.
Yes, we still use Erlang for chat.
Thank you. That's all.
But if that's going to be your choice of language for the interview, whoa.
Well, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, you get to choose whatever you like.
Yeah, I've had people like using Haskell. I've had one person using R as his interview like language.
Interesting.
Whatever works for you.
I just have a question. What if one day people are not interested in Facebook?
Yep. So that's the main reason that we are so like focused on moving fast. Like, if we keep the Facebook as it was like 8 years ago, people wouldn't be interested in it now. So like we like pivot the whole company to be able to extremely fast like change direction, move to something else, like follow the actual trends. Like one of the good example is like a year ago, 2 years ago, like we were dominantly desktop company. Like most of our engineers worked on the desktop side, and most of our code was PHP. And then like one day, Zach, our boss, took us all together, said, you know, from today we are a mobile company. And we retrained all of our engineers to be mobile engineers. Like we put them through like intense iOS or Android training. And now we have more people doing mobile apps than people doing desktop. So like that's how we try to combat it. Like I think if we stay nimble enough, then we can stay relevant.
Thank
Which works did you do before Facebook? I mean, does they require any experience or not?
So, we have people that has just come out of university. We have people that has been in the industry for a long time. Like in my case, yeah, I had my startup before, but it doesn't mean that I had a lot of experience because I was focused on a lot of other stuff. I actually was focused on mobile, and when I started working for Facebook, I was focused on web. So you have to be like passionate and stuff, but experience tells a lot about you, but it's not compulsory at all. Like people have to start working somewhere. If experience was required in every single job, like, no one would be working. So.
Like I can say, like from being involved in recruiting, that we do look at people experience, but it's like pretty small factor. Like the most important things we are looking for, like, is this like smart person, passionate, and knows how to code. And like if you check those three, we want to hire you.
Just a couple of curiosities. I wanted to know which version control system you use, because I've seen both Mercurial and Git.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Which version control system you are using for your code? Because I saw both Mercurial and Git. And then which build system you use, like CMake or Nmake, I don't know.
So for the repositories, like every engineer chooses. In my case, I use Git. I might change to Mercurial for some reasons, but like right now I'm using Git because I was used to it, and I prefer to use Git. Yeah.
For the build system, so our front-end code just uses our own, our PHP code uses our own build system because like we have our own whole runtime. For the Java code, we actually developed our own build system. It's called Bug. So we use it mostly that. It's like kind of like better Maven or much better Maven.
And it's open source too.
Yeah, it's open source.
Hi. I saw some of the tools you develop are pretty general. Some infrastructures which can be used by other companies. Do you open source a lot of tools? Are you encouraged to do it?
So Fabricator, for example, was initially created. I didn't mention it, but it was initially created by a person who was working in Facebook, Ivan Priestley, who eventually went out and open sourced the project. Back, for example, we used it internally, and it's open source now. We recently open sourced Presto, right?
Yes.
Presto, which I have not a lot of insight of it, but yeah, we tend to open source as most as we can. Like for example, Task is pretty related to our like intern infrastructure, so opening it would be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, we tend to open source everything, like all we can.
Yeah, and often like it's not a policy. Like usually you have to have one engineer who is like passionate about it and drive the open source. So like if you have a person that is wants to do it, then like component doesn't stop them to do it. And yeah, we do get value from open sourcing because like for example from Bug, we got like a lot of good patches from people thanks to this being open sourced.
And if you want to contribute to whatever project, it's open source.
Since you said that everybody is responsible for the code, do you have like a system to reward or blame people for their stuff?
No, well, we are not like really blaming culture. We can be a bit snarky at times, so like like we can make fun of someone for bringing the site down, but it's all in like good fun. Like we don't like that doesn't affect their performance review or anything. But yeah, like if you break something like in a clowny way, then you can expect to be ridiculed by your colleagues a bit.
No, but we don't have a ranking of the people who has put the sound down. Whoa.
My question is, how do you decide new features and new things to add to Facebook? Because you said it's a bit open and you can add whatever you want, but there must be some sort of manager that decides what gets in and what doesn't.
So, do you want to start in the most general?
So, a lot of it is through things like I showed gatekeepers. Like, if you can build a feature and like turn it to the small like percentage of users and then prove it's good, that's the best way to make sure something gets in. Like for big things, it's usually like a meeting with Zach to make the final decision. But yeah, like there are not like separate group of people who like think of ideas and make the ideas. Like you as the engineer usually have to come up with the idea. If it's good, like build a prototype. If the prototype works well, then we can ship it.
We also have some product managers.
Yeah, we have PMs. So, like, yeah, you won't be able to like change code, you know, at your will. Like there are usually different teams involved that can be impacted. So we have some product managers who try to like make sure everything is synchronized. But this is not a very formal process. You mostly need to prove that this is a good idea and then run with it. No.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. You said you have a very big repository.
Excuse me, sorry.
What?
Big repository, you said?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the task manager. So I want to know if it is shared among all Facebook developers. So if you have a problem in London, it may be solved in Seattle and vice versa.
You said the repository? Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about that you only have a big repository.
Yeah.
So I want to know if it is shared by all developers in Facebook.
Yeah.
So you may be uploading in London and Seattle to the same repository and solving the same problems.
Oh, well, so we share the same repository, like every single engineer in the company. No, we don't submit the same things. Like we synchronize between all the offices, and like there are different teams in different offices. So yeah, for example, in developers efficiency, my team, it's in like we have a part of the team in London and a part of the team in California, but we are doing like separate things, and that happens with all the products. Like all the a single team does has their own field to do things. So we don't overlap. That's internal communications. But yeah, we share the same.
As far as the access go, like it makes very little difference where physically you are. Like all the work happens on dev servers that are in some data center anyway. So whether you connect to your dev server from London or from US, like you have still the same tools, same access.
Yeah, everything's the same.
And the same goes for the task manager. So it's only for the team.
Oh, no, that's general. Okay. That depends on how the team wants to work. Like, for example, I said that it has tags. In my case, all my tasks, I decided to tag them as task tool. But like other team might have different workflows. That depends on the team how to use it, and how to assign tasks. That depends on every single team. But yeah, we use everything is used globally. And you can access all the people's tasks and stuff to check. Last question, because I think we ran out of time. We will be here, so if you want to ask more things later.
This is the first one in the queue.
Okay, so you say that you can use the software you want to write code.
Yeah.
But are you forced to use some style of coding? Because if anyone can change your code, it will be a bit confusing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have, in general, they are like the normal style guides. We have some modifications in, we use XSP, I don't know if, we use in general the general style guides. Yeah, we follow the same style for all the PH code follows the same style. The JavaScript code follows the same style, and also we have lint for that. So if you don't write it checks where the open braces are and when the close are. That's style code, and yeah, we follow the same because it's easier to see other people code if they have the same style.
Also, the code reviews is very useful for that. Like when you first come, you don't know what necessarily style to use, but usually your reviewers will give you hints, break your line here and don't extend over 80 lines and stuff. And then after a few divs, you learn those rules and then you instill it on the next people you are interviewing or reviewing. So yeah, this spreads naturally. We are pretty consistent.
Yeah, super. Well. Thank you very much for your question.
Okay, thank you very much.